Hello, math scholars. Today we're going to look at a flight schedule. And the four questions that we have first is how long does it take to fly from Shanghai to Sydney? Well, if we want to look at Shanghai on the schedule, right here, Shanghai to Sydney starts from 9:56 and ends at 15:45. So we can find the time difference by subtracting 9:56. Notice here that we're going to have to borrow an hour to make this 105. 105 minus 56 is how much? Well, it's definitely not 50, but it's 49. And 14 minus 9 is 5. So it should take 5 hours and 49 minutes. Which flight lasted longer? The flight from Moscow to Chicago, the flight from New York to Rome, or from Shanghai to Sydney? Well, we already figured out Shanghai to Sydney, so let's talk about New York to Rome. New York to Rome went from 15:45 all the way to 2:45. That's a difference between 15:45 to 24:45, which is a long time. That's 9 hours, plus another 2 hours for the next day. So I think that's an 11-hour flight. What about from Moscow to Chicago? Moscow to Chicago, it's 3 hours until 24:11, or 5 hours until 24:11, and then at least another 8 more hours. So that's at least 13 hours. So I think the Moscow to Chicago flight is probably going to be the longest. Now, Mr. Thomas was in Shanghai. If he wanted to go to Sydney, how long would the plane ride be? So, that's the same problem as number one. So it'd be 5 hours and 49 minutes because he wants to go from Shanghai to Sydney. And which flight is longer, Moscow to Chicago or London to Boston? Well, Moscow to Chicago we figured out was probably around 13 hours. What about London to Boston? London to Boston looks like it's from 12 o'clock to 17 o'clock, which means it's about a difference of 5 hours. So most definitely Moscow to Chicago.